Jackson, we know that you regularly cover the Cleveland Charge, and with Love leaving, I'm wondering, should Isaiah Mobley be brought up to fill the space in the front court?
I think that Isaiah Mobley has progressed really well throughout the year. He's shown real progress. I would be hesitant to bring him up to have him fill actual minutes unless somebody else went down. I think he's a little... He's 6'8", 6'9", so he doesn't have the same size as his brother does, and he's quick, but he doesn't have those same physical traits, so he needs to fill out a little more before he could really be depended on to give good NBA minutes at this point.
Okay. So his size seems to be a big problem at this point. This is like his biggest issue?
So he's most comfortable playing with his back to the basket, and at 6'9", 6'10", that's not really something you're going to be able to do in the NBA unless you are physically strong enough to overpower people. So in the G League, the biggest difference between the NBA and the G League, in my opinion, is the play of the front court. So you have a bunch of like kind of small ball PJ Tucker like guys who aren't PJ Tucker, and just they get Isaiah Mobley the ball on the block. He's just going up with it. They have to send doubles, stuff like that. Or you have guys that are 7 feet tall, but they can't move in space. And then Isaiah is able to just take them off the dribble. So it's like a lot of how he gets those points that he's getting aren't transferable really well right now, which is why he's working a lot on things that will transfer, like the 3-point shot, which is really working out well. It's just he still needs a little bit more time to progress and mature physically before I think you'd really feel comfortable with giving him NBA minutes. But I think if somebody goes down, I think he could give some minutes, but he's not like somebody who I'd be clamoring for.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of discussion, especially with a lot of other Cavs podcasters. They've been saying Diakite makes more sense to maybe sign him to an actual deal and get him off the two-way. I haven't watched Diakite as much. Have you? He was with the Charge for a little bit, right? So he's played some games. What have you seen out of him?
Yeah, he's played about 13 games, so he's spent more time with the Cavs than he has with the Charge.
Mm-hmm.
He's more NBA ready. He has a better NBA body, but I don't think he's not somebody I'd feel super comfortable giving a ton of minutes to. He's really turnover prone, and this comes up a lot in the G League. That's not really something you want from a backup big. He also fouls a decent amount. You saw that he started a few games, kind of spot started when earlier this year when Jared Allen went down. And he just fouls a lot, so he can give you spot minutes, but he's not somebody you really want to give over 15 minutes to in a game.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of him live and on TV, and I felt very similarly that clearly he's NBA ready, but I don't think I'd give him more than maybe 10 minutes a game. It depends on the matchups. It depends on what you really need him for, but... I think one of the reasons why we had this question was because we had a video that we floated on YouTube about it, kind of just wondering that throughout this entire year, as a two-way player, why didn't they bring Isaiah in just to see how he'd mesh with the team early on? Was there anything that you had heard about why that didn't happen, or was it just they had too many people to choose from and it just didn't work out?
I think he really just needs the time to really progress in a NBA system. Okay. So one of the things that when you talk to him, one of the things that he really talks about is how, because he does, he gets to practice with the Cavs and he doesn't travel with them much, but he does go to all like the home games and stuff. And he talks about how he learns a lot being with them, just being around them, seeing it all up close and personal, and then he gets to see it. And then he gets to take it down to the G League and work on it. And that's just something that if he was with the Cavs, even if he was getting minutes, he wouldn't be getting real minutes, where he's able to actually feel like he's able to progress and work on things. Whereas in the G League, you see him sometimes like he'll like have a game where he's like, I'm just doing dribble handoffs all day, and he'll just practice like the fake Kevin Love pull away dribble handoff. He'll do that multiple times, and then it's something that he then can incorporate into his game, and it's just he wouldn't be getting those reps if he was in the NBA. So that's where it's like, yeah, I think maybe he could get minutes, but it's just he's better served, and the Cavs are better served in the long run with him being down there, just getting as much experience as possible.
Yeah, I love that you touched on that last point. Just that he is best of both worlds right now. That he can go and watch what the Cavs are doing down the street, but then go and practice all of those things and try it out on his own. With the Charge, and that's something too that I wanted to touch base on as well. What are the benefits of the Charge being in Cleveland instead of Canton? I mean, that's probably huge as well, right?
Yeah, it's something that if you talk to the players, they all really, really talk about that. And I never covered the Charge when they were in Canton, so I don't really have anything to compare that with, and none of these players played in Canton. But
sure.
But the Charge are able to practice at the Cavs facilities. I was talking to Sharif Cooper the other day, and he was talking about how he's able to go there, and he's able to talk to Donovan Mitchell. He's able to talk to the Cavs. He's able to observe them. So it's something that they really value. They get to practice on the Cleveland Clinic courts. They get to use the world-class, facilities and stuff. So it's something that they really think is a good thing. And we saw that some last year. Brandon Goodwin was getting some minutes last year, and then he would get minutes. Somebody would come back from injury. He would I fell out of the rotation. I'm just going to go get some minutes with the Charge and play 20 minutes just to stay fresh. And that's something that, the Cavs aren't really using that this year because they don't have guys that fall into that category as much. But, Dylan Windler was down with the Charge last game and was able to get a couple minutes. So, and that's just an opportunity that you wouldn't have in Canton. It's harder to get guys to travel, down 77 to, play.
No.
So it just really works out well for everyone.
Yeah. I have not lived in Northeast Ohio for a long time, but I know that Canton is far enough that you say to where.
Right.
One last question I actually had was, it seems like when Isaiah Mobley got drafted, obviously there was a lot of speculation and there was a thought process of, oh, this is Evan's brother, so there's a big reason why you would go after him. Yeah. That being said, kind of from what you're laying out here with Isaiah, he really is getting the chance to improve or craft his game, and the hope would be that he would step into getting some meaningful minutes sometime next year. Is there a Cavs player that you can recall where they have done this, where they have actually used the G League as kind of a farm system for getting a guy to become an eventual rotation player in recent history? Like Lamar Stevens comes to mind, but I don't remember him doing much in the G League.
Yeah, Dean Wade was able to do that. So he went down with the Charge. He spent some time with the Charge, and then now he's on a full-time contract. Lamar Stevens, he was a two-way player, but he was a two-way player during the 2021
during the COVID season.
Yeah,
right?
so they weren't. He didn't. They had like a G League bubble, I believe, and he didn't go to the G League bubble or anything like that. So he was like a two-way player in name only. Whereas Dean Wade was able to actually get minutes, and it's something that they've tried to do. They've tried to have basically they tried to have like one developmental player and one guy that they're comfortable with giving minutes to. And Isaiah Mobley is that guy right now. I do think he has the skills to be a really helpful big, like a backup big, because that's what this team needs. And this team doesn't really have a lot of avenues to improve around the margins. So they need to hit on some guys like this. This doesn't need to be Mobley, but they need to hit on one of these guys, one of these second-round picks, because it's just hard to keep this roster going, like depending on minimum contract guys and the mid-level exception.
Well, and you've got to salivate at the opportunity for the Mobley brothers to play together. I mean, clearly they've been playing together their whole life. So the idea that that could come together on the court in the NBA, I mean, yes, please, as a Cav. And if it takes a couple seasons, fine. You know, we at least Evan is ready to go. but yeah.
Yeah, and like the thing is, I feel like I've been a little too hard on Isaiah. Like, he really does have a lot of things that transfer really well to the NBA. He is a good defender. It's just when, like, if you picture Evan Mobley as like just a step slower and just a little bit, shorter arms and a little less quick, it's the margins that really make a big difference in the NBA. So he just needs to, if he fills out, and he's somebody that's not going to get pushed around, because he's had trouble earlier this season. When he's gone against some of those super small centers that are like 6'5" bowling balls, he can get pushed around a little bit, and that's not something that you want. If he's going to be a little smaller, he just can't get pushed around that way. So it's something that once he fills out, he's a good shooter. He's a better shooter than his brother, and he's comfortable. He's comfortable with the ball in his hands. He's comfortable dribbling. I think he may be a better passer than his brother too. It's just to shooting and passing. Right.
That's crazy.
I mean, and he's a really heady player. Like, he really has a good feel for the game. He understands what needs to be done. Evan Mobley's just so physically gifted, and Isaiah Mobley is physically gifted, but he's not a freak.
Yeah. I don't want him to be Evan. I don't mind that he's Evan light. I kind of wonder, especially with the NBA and nobody really sticks to any one numbered position. Can he play a little bit at the three the way that we used Markkanen? Can we rotate him around a little bit depending on certain matchups? I don't really know if I need him to always play center. But you've watched a lot more game of so far of him than I have. So
yeah, that's something that I've thought about. I don't know if it'd be like in your head you think it maybe could work, but I feel like it'd be kind of like, when you tried to take Larry Nance Jr. and move him at like a 3 or a 5, you're like, this should work. But then like you see it and you're like, it doesn't really quite work, because Larry Nance Jr. is really good at a lot of things. But if he was like 2% better at everything, he'd be a superstar. But as it is, he's just a role player. So, and that's kind of how like I feel about, Isaiah in terms of like maybe trying to make him like a 3 or something like that. It's like he's not quite, like, he has a good handle. He's somebody that could, like, he gets a rebound and he can push it up himself. But he's not somebody who you'd want to just give it to on the wing and just say, facilitate, do stuff, move off ball. So that's where I think he's kind of more limited in that aspect.
So,
and that's kind of how I felt about like Larry Nance Jr.
So in that regard, he could move to the 4, and Evan could move to the 3. No, sorry. Anyway, Colin, what were you going to say?
I think that, you're also hitting on, Adam and I have thought that Evan, if he improves his foot speed and his handle, Evan could definitely do some weird stuff off of playing the 3. I think he has that ability because he's so young. His ceiling is completely unmatched, I think, compared for any prospect that the Cavs have had, obviously, since LeBron, which, LeBron is in his own class. But I also, I think what's really interesting about having you on is I actually think that you give really honest assessments of these players, and you're also comparing them, because you're around the Cavs organization, you're comparing them from what the Cavs are asking these players to do. So that's why I always feel like, yes, you might be a little harsh on Isaiah, but I also think that you understand like the mentality of the organization, what JB and the coaching staff is going to ask Isaiah to do if he was to be called up. And I think that there is, right now we're seeing it might take a little bit of time, but we saw that is working out with them with Dean Wade. Dean Wade has had some health issues, but he's playing well enough that the team relies on him, so much so that they were, now he's gone, but they were sitting a Hall of Famer. So Isaiah has that ability, and I'm glad that they're able to take the time with him right now.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see what he looks like if he plays I would imagine he plays Summer League this year. I think last year in Summer League, he kind of looked like a fish out of water. Like he was just like, I don't know what to do. I think I'm supposed to be shooting threes. I guess I'll just do that. And that's one of the things he talked about. He talked to me about it once. He was like, like Summer League, I didn't know how to play NBA basketball. Like I thought I knew what NBA basketball was. I watch NBA basketball, but it's just so much different with the speed of the game, the way the spacing works, so he's really learning and he keeps developing really well. So it's like, I don't want to put a limit on like what he could do. It's just that like you're just going to have to be patient with it. And, you don't really get second round picks who come in and give meaningful minutes unless you're, Boobie Gibson. Then you can, win a playoff series. But that's where you just kind of have to keep your expectations for like right now in check. But the thing that's most exciting, I think, is that he fits well with his brother and not just like a, they're brothers type way, but because they actually have games that complement each other. Yeah.
They've been playing against each other their entire lives. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I'm really excited for the future. I'm just not as like I would rather them keep like, if it really came down to it, like I'd rather them give Robin Lopez minutes just because it's like it's a known it's something it's you kind of want to just keep Isaiah in a spot where he's comfortable, where he's learning. So,
okay. Cool.
Thank you for listening to the Cavaliers Basketball Club podcast. Let's go Cavs!